The dim light of the alien sun flickered across the metallic ruins, casting eerie shadows over the battlefield. Vey'ra, a warrior of the proud and stoic Ylvarian species, lay motionless amidst the wreckage. Her sleek, silver-scaled body was riddled with burns and wounds from the orbital strike that had annihilated her squad. Her breathing was shallow, her energy spent. She had fought valiantly, knowing full well that her mission to protect the Ylvarian outpost was likely a suicide run. Now, the outpost was destroyed, and her comrades were no more. As the sounds of battle faded into silence, Vey'ra prepared for the inevitable. She waited for death to claim her. The sound of footsteps jolted her from her daze. They were light but deliberate, a stark contrast to the heavy, metallic thuds of her people's stride. Through the haze of her failing vision, she saw a figure approaching. It was a human. Humans were an enigma to the Ylvarians. They were new to the galactic stage, fragile and unremarkable compared to most species. Yet, they had gained a reputation for their tenacity and unpredictability. The human knelt beside her, his expression unreadable. His clothing was tattered, his face smeared with dirt and soot, but his eyes were sharp and determined. Still alive? Huh, he muttered, more to himself than to her. He opened a small pack and began pulling out supplies. Vey'ra's pride flared. "Leave me," she rasped, her voice weak but firm. "This is my end. I will die with honor." The human paused, glancing at her with a smirk. "Honor's great and all, but it won't keep you breathing. Let's get you patched up." Before she could protest, he began working. His movements were swift and precise as he cleaned her wounds, applied a strange gel that numbed her pain, and wrapped her injuries in bandages. "Why?" she managed to ask. "Why not?" he replied simply, not looking up from his work. Hours passed, and Vey'ra's strength began to return, though she still couldn't stand. The human, he introduced himself as Captain Eric Nolan, built a small shelter from the wreckage and started a fire. He spoke casually as he worked, telling her about Earth, its chaotic weather, and its stubborn inhabitants. She watched him with growing curiosity. Humans were supposed to be self-serving and opportunistic, yet this one had risked his life to save hers. "Your kind is strange," she finally said. Eric chuckled. "Takes one to know one. You've got scales and claws, and yet you're as noble as any knight from Earth's legends." Vey'ra tilted her head. "Knight? Long story," Eric said with a grin. The next morning, their peace was shattered by the sound of approaching drones. The enemy faction had returned to finish what they started. Vey'ra tried to rise, but her body betrayed her. "Stay down," Eric ordered, grabbing his rifle. "You cannot face them alone," she protested. "Watch me," he said, his voice steady but fierce. Eric's strategy was unorthodox. Using the terrain and the wreckage to his advantage, he set traps and ambushes that turned the enemy's superior numbers against them. Vey'ra, though injured, marveled at his ingenuity and sheer audacity. By the time the last drone was destroyed, Eric was battered but victorious. He returned to Vey'ra's side, collapsing beside her with a triumphant grin. "Told you I've got this," he said between breaths. Vey'ra stared at him, her chest tightening with an unfamiliar emotion. "You saved me again. I owe you a debt I cannot repay." Eric waved a hand dismissively. "You don't owe me anything. Just stay alive. That's payment enough." In the days that followed, Vey'ra healed under Eric's care. She learned more about humans, their resilience, their humor, their maddening refusal to give up. She also learned that Eric was stranded, just like her, his ship destroyed in the same attack. "We'll find a way off this rock," he said one evening, staring at the stars. "We?" she asked, her tone softer than she intended. "Yeah," he replied. "I'm not leaving you behind. Not after all this." Vey'ra felt something shift within her. For the first time, she saw humans not as fragile anomalies, but as kindred spirits, beings who could rise above fear and self-interest. When an Ylvarian rescue team finally arrived weeks later, Vey'ra was no longer the same. She stood tall, her strength returned, but her gaze often lingered on Eric. As the rescuers prepared to leave, Vey'ra turned to him. "Come with me," she said. Eric raised an eyebrow. "To your people? Pretty sure I'd stick out." "They will honor you as I do," she said firmly. "And I wish to keep fighting by your side." Eric hesitated, then smiled. "Well, when you put it like that, how can I say no?" Together, the human and the alien warrior left the desolate battlefield behind, their bond unbreakable. In the vast, uncertain galaxy, they had found something rare and precious: trust, friendship, and the promise of a future where differences could unite rather than divide.